Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're not new here, yes, I have a new background. And if you are new here, hi, I'm Eric, I have a stutter, and I say stupid shit. Now, a few disclaimers before we get into today's video. As you saw from the title, we're going to be talking about JD Vance. I'm not American, I do not vote in the American elections, and anything I have to say about any of it is solely judged from a distance. I've only been to the United States once for 2 days in Seattle, that's it. So, take any of my opinions with a big pinch of salt. Also, if you think this is a JD Vance and Trump hate piece, you are absolutely correct. Yes, this is a hate piece because they are objectively horrible people. That's not an opinion, it's not a debate, it's not an invitation for your opinion. It's just a fact. They are objectively horrible people. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the video. Now, in case you missed it, Trump's new running mate, JD Vance, wrote a book, a memoir of sorts, detailing his earlier formative years as a young boy growing up in rural Ohio, all the way to studying at Yale Law. I truly hope that he's still Trump's running partner by the time that I post this video, because I've seen today already, date of filming Monday, 22nd of July. There are rumors that apparently Trump regrets his decision of picking him, especially now that Biden is out of the race. It truly is a circus. I don't know how people aren't just like doing watch parties at home. The book was turned into a movie back in 2020, and straight away it was deemed an Oscar bait movie. You know those movies that you can tell they were made just to get Oscar nominations? Well, unlucky for them, because the movie got panned by critics, just like the memoir was when it came out first in 2016. Now, that's not to say it was a total failure, because Glenn Close was nominated for an Oscar. Ironically, she was also nominated for a Razzie for the exact same performance, so I don't know what's going on there. The story is meant to serve as this like coming-of-age drama where a young boy from the Appalachian, where a young boy from the Appalachian region escapes into the real world of rich white people, eventually making a name for himself as a Yale law student. I kid you not, that was his resume back when the memoir was written and published. Somehow, someone out there felt like this story was just too important not to be told. But now that he's running with Trump, you know, his story is getting new attention. His movie is back in the top ones of Netflix. Here we have the origin story of JD Vance, based on the memoir written by JD Vance, turned into a movie executive produced by JD Vance. And yeah, sometimes movies take creative freedom, so we can't really use it as a basis to compare to the book, but whatever they've changed in the story, I think it was the second half, they made it less political and more about his family. It was also a disaster, so I don't know, maybe the book is even worse. That said, movies rarely are the faithful retelling of actual events, which I hope is true, because this movie sucks ass. And considering his flip-floppy opinions over the years, I don't know, I wouldn't trust a word out of his mouth. But even if it was true, it's still a pretty terrible movie. Like, it's sucky. You know, what could have been, a hard-hitting story exposing the reality of hard-working Americans living in isolated areas of the country, neglected by their government, therefore suffering socially and economically, turn into the story of a white man wanting to be oppressed and then escaping said oppression, all while treating his mom like a cancerous tumor that he eventually fixed. And it doesn't help that every character in this story is extremely unlikable, but especially his mother. She was played by Amy Adams, and the character, like, we were made to feel zero sympathy for her. She's consistently blamed for all of her problems, and her inability to own up to anything is like her biggest downfall. But before we get into all of that, who the hell is JD Vance?
As somebody who doesn't like Trump, myself, the elites were right about Donald Trump, right? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him.
He's the best president of my lifetime, and he revealed the corruption in this country like nobody else.
I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place. I think that he was a good president. I think he made a lot of good decisions for people.
I take it you're not a Trump supporter from what I've read. Am I right? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I didn't vote for Trump.
All around, he was a great president. I'm 37 years old. Certainly the best president of my lifetime.
Universities are part of a social contract in this country. That we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
Should a woman be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape?
Look, my view on this has been very clear, and I think the question betrays a certain presumption that's wrong. It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society.
But I mean, if the movie's any indication, it's that JD Vance will change himself if need be to get to where he needs to be. And I guess this is his way to get closer to the American public. You know, he's going to be the vice president if Trump is elected. Therefore, the Americans are going to get to know a lot more of him. You know what's a better way to get to know a lot more of him? Watch this movie. I'm not going to tell you to read the book because I didn't. You could not pay me enough to put myself through that. I'm lying. If you pay me, I will read the out of that book. Minimum offer is £500. But his political ascension was thanks to his Silicon Valley scion pal, Peter Thiel, who he met back in 2015 when he joined his venture capital. And in 2022, when he was elected to the United States Senate from Ohio, it was thanks to his buddy's donations. But rumor has it that the straw that broke the camel's back and sent JD Vance into this far-right space was the poor critical reception of his movie. And after seeing the movie, I gotta say, white men will do anything for a check. He began writing the memoir at the suggestion of his mentor. He even said in an interview, and I quote, "I thought the idea that I could write a meaningful book was kind of arrogant and presumptuous." It was. Anyway, needless to say, only conservatives liked it because they do love a good story where the person's individual strength is highlighted against all odds, and it's always a white man. I'll also leave the timestamps down below because we're not just talking about this horrible movie. We're also going to be talking about JD Vance's... Oh, he's 38, by the way. That is crazy young to be this deranged. The movie's told in different timelines in a non-linear way, but we're going to go from beginning to end because it's just juicier that way. We start in 1997. JD is 13. He lives in Middletown, Ohio with his mother and a sister, and down the street from his grandmother and grandfather, who he calls Mama and Papa. I just find Papa really funny. He says he's from Ohio, where he's lived most of his life, but he feels more at home in Jackson, Kentucky, in the Appalachia region, where his Mama is from. Back when Mama was 13, she got pregnant with his grandfather, who was 16 at the time. They weren't married, and they ran away. And we get that information delivered to us by Beverly, who's just so kind as to...
Because when you're knocked up at 13, you get the hell out of Dodge, that's why.
Now, the Appalachia region is supposed to be very important to this story because it has historically been portrayed as an impoverished area of the United States, you know, stereotyped as the home for the illiterate and the lazy, far removed from society, the uneducated and unrefined. Mind you, these are all stereotypes that I could find on a quick 5-minute Google search, and JD Vance plays right into every single one of them, highlights them even from the moment they start talking. It almost feels like a caricature. His mother, Beverly, is an addict. We're never told how it started or what drove her to the addiction, just that she started using, presumably as a nurse, you know, having easy access to drugs. Can this be considered part of the opioid crisis? It was in 1997? I don't know. She put herself through nursing school as a single mother, which he holds in high esteem, and says that she is the smartest person he's ever met. His grandmother, who he calls Mama, is rough around the edges, you know, the no minced words kind of gal. She tells it like it is, but you can tell that under the surface is just a sweetheart of a person without a mean bone in her entire body. She just wants to help and, you know, she's just a bit forceful. Fun fact, she was a Democrat, and he tells us that she was the single best thing that ever happened to him. So his biggest source of love and affection and support and guidance was a Democrat. Nice, right? His grandfather, Papa, is... He's quite inconsequential to the story until he dies. And then he's got an older sister, Lindsay, who seems like a nice family-oriented woman who seemingly wastes her life in Ohio caring for their mother. You know who should be the main character of the story? Lindsay. Lindsay deserves her story to be told. In these flashbacks, we see a few incidents in his childhood that presumably, you know, stuck with him and made him the person that he is today. Starting with a group of older kids trying to drown him in a creek. But he tells us that his grandparents have told him never to start a fight, but you sure as hell gonna finish one if it started. And when you can't finish a fight, like in this case, you wait for your grown-up relatives to arrive and scare kids away. And all the incidents are related to his mother. She starts to show signs of just aggressive outbursts for no reason, like when he gets a puppy gifted to him. The puppy walks into the house, pees on the carpet straight away, and she starts screaming at the puppy. Then JD tries to catch the puppy. This is during Easter, by the way, and they're doing these like weird eggs that mean a lot to her from her ancestors. And then he bumps onto the table, the eggs fall, and she just goes off on him and scares him into his room. I don't want to invalidate anyone's feelings, but he didn't even get spanked. Mind you, he was yelled at. Sure, it's wrong to scream at 13-year-olds, but he was just yelled at. Like, have you ever had to fear a belt? I'm not defending violence against children. I am defending violence against this specific child, mostly because I know who he becomes. So like, I can't watch this story from an impartial point of view. Like, I can't ignore that he's an asshole. So like everything that happens to him, I'm like, great, because he's an asshole, right? The first like truly severe incident that we see, one day his mom is driving with him, and we find out in conversation that she's gone through a few boyfriends at this point. And she's telling her son that she's planning to move in with this new boyfriend that she has. And he doesn't seem pleased. It seems like this isn't new for her. She constantly gets into new relationships, drags her kids with her, then ends up having to move out. And it's a constant move in and out that the son is tired of. And then even comments that his friend calls her mom's boyfriend her flavor of the month because she does this all the time. Basically calling her a slut. This does not go down well with Beverly. She starts speeding the car, talking about how she never had the chance to be anything in life, that she was stuck taking care of her kids, and that she's sacrificed everything, and how dare you allow that little shit to say that about me in front of you and you don't do anything. She then threatens to crash the car and nearly crashes the car, which really scares JD. They have an altercation. She starts beating him up, like, very aggressively. He escapes the car. This is so deranged, by the way. He escapes the car, runs to a random house. He begs the woman for help, screaming, "My mom's trying to kill me. My mom's trying to kill me." This woman sees a white kid running out of a car being chased by another white woman, is like, "Oh, I'm going to help this child." She takes the child in. The kid calls his mama and papa. He calls his grandparents to come get him. His mom breaks through the door, starts dragging him outside, and as she's dragging her son down these stairs, immediately there is a police officer there, because apparently the woman who saw the kid get out of the car screaming for help called the police straight away. And I'm left wondering, how in the hell did they get there in less than a minute? Because the entire scene from when he spots the woman in the house and the police being there is like less than a minute. I think it's great. It's a testament to it's a testament to how police always works in these stories about white kids becoming conservatives. And once his grandparents get there, he basically drops all charges, says that he was just being stupid to avoid having his mom go to jail. And they just let the mom go. They don't press any charges. They don't talk about how he wasted police resources. They genuinely just let them all go without anything else. Sounds very privileged to me, but, you know, that's just me. It sounds like JD Vance could have really sent his mom to prison or even had her killed, but didn't. Eventually his papa dies, which I guess is a catalyst for his mom's drug use. It's not explained if it's what starts it or what makes it worse, but we see her steal a few pills in the hospital, then she's roller skating through the halls like she's having a hallucinatory dream, a moment. She's feeling the vibes, and she's just strolling around these hallways, and of course that gets her fired. She also constantly berates her children, blames them for the state of her life. I love a parent that blames their children for their problems, because it feels nice, right? It's gotta feel nice to grow up knowing that your mom and dad are completely unhappy and hate their lives because you exist. And complains about how that ruined her life and all of her chances. She was so smart and she could have been so many great things, but then she had to stay home and take care of her kids. And I'm just thinking, if only there was a way for women to make a choice, an alternative choice. You know, something comes to mind. I think it starts with an A. And soon after losing her father and then her job, Beverly, trigger warning, slits her wrists, and walks out onto the street screaming for help. Will somebody help me? Will anybody help me? And this is done in such an exploitative way. Like, it's clearly an incident that affected JD a lot, and it's just done in such a sensationalist and ostentatious way, almost like as if to maximize his trauma, hyperbolize it even. Because every scene where his mom is in pain, suffering, going through God knows what, the story always frames her as like this evil person with no redeeming qualities or kindness in her heart. And it always focuses her struggle on him, as in, like, she's struggling over there. She's going through God knows what. And instead of showing this character some sympathy and like actually showing us what it's like for her, what she's going through, it just shows how much JD hates her for doing that. Like, after this incident, every time his mom has like an episode, he acts like he hates her, you know? He acts like it's her fault that she has this addiction. It's the ultimate narcissistic move to make your mother's struggles all about you. After this incident where, we make a spectacle out of his mom, she goes to rehab for a while and then comes back and marries a guy randomly, and he's like, "Yep, I married this guy. I broke up with the one that we had a conversation about earlier, and we're going to move in with him. And he's got weed in his basement or something. Like, I would move into the house so fast." But his mom struggles to stay clean, going as far as asking her son to pee in a cup for her. God forbid this child has to pee in a cup for his own mom. Like, help her out. And he throws such a massive fit, then starts throwing insults at his mom, at his grandmother.
"You're a shitty mom, and so are you."
And it has to be his mama that goes outside and talks him into helping his own mother, because no one else is helping this woman. And again, I'm not minimizing the effects that growing up with an addict parent has on someone. I'm saying that the way it's presented to us, she had an episode twice, and he has shown nothing but hatred towards her ever since. Like, he talks to her like he actually hates her, and we're never shown any of her journey. He just hates his mom. So one day, after he gets involved with some unsavory kids and they go and destroy a bunch of stuff and then get into a car accident, his mama has had enough. And fresh out of the hospital from having pneumonia, she goes to her daughter's house and takes JD away. Tells her daughter that someone needs to pay attention to him before it's too late. He's hanging out with losers. He's going to become a loser. He could have gone to prison. He's getting into trouble. All of this while her grandson was just smoking weed with this other kid. So yeah, she's got a point. But before he is truly set in his ways, he has another incident where he needs a calculator to do his homework, and they cost $82 or $84, something stupid like that. And he doesn't have money to pay for one. And it's tough. I just don't understand why the school couldn't just provide calculator. It's like, my school did. Oh, that's right. Not everyone has turned education into a money-making machine for governments and corporations. So he goes into a store and tries to steal a calculator very poorly, gets caught. You know what? Maybe your thing is more like white-collar crime. I'm sure it's going to happen inevitably, right?
You know what I haven't done? I didn't start a fake nonprofit pretending like I was going to help people with addiction like JD Vance did. Literally started a nonprofit and didn't spend one nickel on anybody. In fact, he brought in somebody from Purdue Pharma to be the spokesperson for the nonprofit. The same drug company, Big Pharma, the big drug company that had all the pill mills going, got everybody addicted. 1 million people died, JD.
His grandma's had it. That's her breaking point. And she tells him that he needs to change his ways if he wants to become someone, if he hopes to become someone. And I guess his change of heart comes when he realizes that his grandmother is now struggling to afford food for both of them, considering she wasn't expecting an extra mouth eating. But that does it. From then on, he starts helping around the house. He studies, gets the best algebra grade in class. He is a hero. After this, he enlists in the army to help pay for his college and to get, life experience. And eventually graduates from Ohio State School in political science and some stupid shit that makes them all corrupt. And then we're in present time, 2011, JD Vance working 3 jobs to put himself through Yale Law School. And oh my God. You'd think that having firsthand experience with the extortionate higher education system in the US that you'd want to change things, right? Nope. It's all down to the individual. If you can't afford it, don't go. If you want to go, you'll find a way to afford it, because that's how the mind of a winner works. And at the time, he's already dating his soon-to-be wife, Usha, who's also attending Yale Law School. So he's in a really tough spot financially because, again, extortionate higher education system. And his best option at moving forward is getting this summer internship. And to do that, he has to go to these like very Ivy League events full of rich, mostly white people. It's like Get Out, but everybody wants to be there willingly because you're just there planning who to kidnap. Because most of these rich people grew up rich, they were born with a silver spoon up their ass, JD feels out of place because he is a hillbilly from the Appalachia region, in case you forgot. He's not used to having smart conversations. He's not used to behaving like a human. Normally him and his siblings would just go to the mountains to forage for food. Sometimes they wouldn't eat. There were long wintry nights.
I have a lot of wealthy friends, and I also have a lot of broke friends. And the biggest noticeable social difference between them is the topics that they talk about at dinner. Please don't get mad at me. I'm literally just reporting on what I've observed.
He's not used to having these many forks and knives and which one is my drink, where's my bread, how do I eat. He's having a panic attack because he's afraid of grabbing the wrong fork and missing out on a summer internship. Like, if it's such a stuck-up environment, why wouldn't you Google how to eat with etiquette before you went to the dinner? Anyway, he leaves the table to call his girlfriend, Usha, to ask her how to eat at this table. And after hanging up, he gets a call from his sister. His mom has OD'd, she's in the hospital, and this really upsets him. He goes back to the table, now feeling really distressed with the news, and starts telling these rich white people about his Appalachian roots and how his grandfather's distant cousin may have been responsible for the murder that incited the Hatfield-McCoy feud. There's a story that you wouldn't think to tell anyone, but hey, JD is very, very proud of his origins, and he doesn't mind. What he does mind is this stuck-up joke about how hard it must be to go back and be with all their rednecks. Now, apparently they don't call themselves that, and he takes offense to it. So, like, it's almost like there are insults that you should find offensive and that you're allowed to react negatively to, right? It's almost like the way we talk to each other matters. The way we address each other matters. Which is weird because he's a conservative, so like, why the f*** are you being a snowflake? But he defends his mother because JD is a good guy.
You liar!
Thinking he ruined dinner and his chances at a final interview, he decides to make his drive back to his hometown to help his sister, who kind of got stuck helping the mom all these years. When he gets there, his mom is being kicked out of the hospital. She's screaming, insulting all the staff, being very belligerent and rude and just outright nasty. And we start to understand why nobody wants to take care of her. She's just a flaming. He even tries to help her. He convinces the hospital to allow them a few more hours, considering everybody just wants her out. And she's like, you only got 3 hours.
That's what your law school negotiating could get us, was till 3. Oh, let's hear it for Yale.
She also let her insurance lapse. She used to work at this hospital as a nurse until she got fired for stealing drugs and taking them. Now she doesn't have any insurance, and no rehab facility wants her back because she has a history with them. She has a history of being a nightmare. Anyway, JD gets a call offering him a final interview, so he didn't blow it after all. That means he's gonna have to leave soon, which means he's gonna have to work extra hard to find somewhere to leave his mom because her current boyfriend destroyed all of her stuff and dumped it outside because he doesn't want to deal with her anymore. She refuses to go to rehab. Then a rehab facility that she used to go to refuses to take her in because, they have processes and they have a waiting list. But this man tells this woman of how his mom put herself through nursing school and needs a break, and so does he. And damn, it worked. They accept his mom. I don't know. It's starting to feel like people are giving them a lot of free passes because they just believe in their potential. Right? Interesting. Interesting. But his mom refuses to stay in the rehab center because she doesn't want to. The only hint of humanity that he gives his mother is when his sister tells him off for wanting to leave and just be done with the issue. Because according to his sister, Bev had an even rougher childhood, and all we see is an incident where Mama set Papa's crotch on fire. He's very aggressive, but also, I don't know, this generational trauma he mentions for fleeting moments ignores so many other factors that could have contributed to his mom's problems. And then his mom's mental health is never spoken about, it's never addressed, it's never questioned, which is weird because everything this woman does and says screams, give me Therapy, please. Clearly, his mamaw had a lot of trauma that got passed to his mom, who also had a lot of trauma that got passed to him. So you would think that getting to the root of the issue would be a faster solution than to blame your mom for being a lazy addict. Because that's what he treats his mom as, just a lazy addict who's got no one to blame for but herself. It's a lack of empathy that's just wild. Anyway, when his mom refuses to stay in the rehab facility, he takes her to a motel room and then catches her shooting heroin. He destroys her supply. There's a lot of screaming and crying and hitting again. And then, as his mom lays on the bed, crying, her fragile hand reaching for her son, we see a montage of images from his childhood, of a few scenes, including additional ones of Mamaw lying on her deathbed. And then he reaches for his mom's hand and tells her that he's going to do everything in his power to help her. The only thing he can't do is stay there, because staying there isn't helping anyone, isn't saving anyone. And so he leaves, says goodbye to his sister, and then drives all the way back, making it on time for his meeting, and also to reconciliate with Usha, who stays up with him all night while they're on the phone. That woman must really like him. And that's it. That's the movie. I mean, it's just so tedious. And it's such a deliberate attempt to make himself into this self-made hero, survivor of his own circumstances kind of story. And it reeks of narcissism. And the way he portrays his mother's struggles are very exploitative. Like, he never talks about the financial difficulties of the area he grew up in. He never talks about her mental health. He never talks about the lack of regulations with opioids. He never talks about any of the things that have happened around to have facilitated this situation, this addiction that has affected him greatly, and his sister and his grandparents. Instead, he just blames the individual. And I think that this is what makes him so appealing to the Republicans. You know, it's this, his whole stance is that you're in charge of your life, of your decisions, and therefore solely responsible for the consequences of your actions. You know, there's screw socioeconomical factors that affect people disproportionately in a system designed to make rich people richer and working people poorer. Individual responsibility, that's the kicker. It's like Kim Kardashian says,
get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
And then he finishes the movie with this really stupid quote. I'm not even going to look it up, but it's along the lines of where you're from is who you are, but every day you choose who you become, or something like that, implying that you become who you want, regardless of what's around you. Almost like we're fully responsible for everything that happens to us, which is weird considering none of us choose where we're born, into what family, under which circumstances. And when you start to think about these circumstances that affect people disproportionately, you start thinking that if he cared about those situations, if he wanted to change those systems so that people like his mother would have more support and a better life, then surely he wouldn't be a Republican who wants to work with Project 2025, because apparently he's a big supporter of that.
And I want to thank especially Kevin Roberts and all of the Heritage Foundation for 50 years of incredible work on conservative policy.
So, Project 2025 attempts to place a complete ban on gay marriage, a complete ban on no-fault divorce, attempts to place a complete ban on anything deemed pornographic, including anything sexually explicit, including drawings or literature that doesn't involve real people. Anything involving gay people in media, even if it is as simple as a documentary or something mentioning that it is possible for two men to be in a relationship. Heavily limiting the abilities of the FDA, CDC, and OSHA, including making it harder to get medicine, more expensive to get medicine, more difficult and expensive to get disability aids, getting rid or greatly diminishing many workplace safety laws, and lowering the age of legal work / cutting back on child labor laws. They won't let people drink at the age of 18, but they will lower the age so, 14-year-olds can go to factories. And also ban abortion, even in cases of missed or silent miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, fetal abnormalities, which is already happening now because of, Roe being overturned. Now, I couldn't find a definitive reason why JD was picked by Trump, apart from saying that even though he won't change swing states, he will energize Trump's far-right base of support, which is no surprise considering JD Vance effectively opposes marriage equality, abortion rights, gun control policies, or gender-affirming care. The man really wants America to be great again for cishet white dudes. Side note, it never ceases to amaze me how many of these conservative, nationalist, racist politicians somehow always end up with either a foreign or a non-white wife. Like, what's up with that? Is it a fetish? Is it stupidity? Sorry, these are questions for the wives. I don't need to ask them at anything. I know exactly why they do this. And that's it. That's hillbilly elegy. I don't fucking know how to say it. I don't care. And JD Vance. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Did you watch this movie? Did you not? What are we thinking? And by the time this video airs, will he still be Trump's running mate? Can he even change him at this point? I don't know. I just like to watch. And with all that said, thank you so much again for tuning in. If you like this video, feel free to leave it a like down below, subscribe to my channel, and click that bell notification so you never miss a future upload from me. Also, let me know what you think about the background. Until next time, stay safe, stay sane, stay stupid, and stay stuttering. Bye, guys.